The welcome screen and run through. So just to introduce myself, I'm Chris Boyes, COO at Trust Systems. I'm responsible for Trust Cloud and the Trust Cloud product set. And to introduce Jamie, who's joining us from Crown Hosting today, who's a key ecosystem partner of ours and who we use to host Trust Cloud as a sovereign data center. So the agenda today is relatively self-explanatory. Hopefully that's why you've joined the call. We want to really go through the why, the how and the what of Trust Cloud, hybrid cloud, and a lot of the reasons driving the market change and the opportunity as we see it for Trust Cloud. We'll have a bit of Q&A at the end, but happy to take questions as we go through. So in terms of Trust Systems building Trust Cloud, it was primarily built to provide a multi-cloud, interoperable and modern operating model, not just a location. So it's not more than a platform, and hopefully this presentation will explain how it works in a bit more detail and cover off the managed services that sit with it and how we go about provisioning Trust Cloud. Fundamentally, it's underpinned by the DDAT, Digital Data and Technology framework from the government. So that's the key operating premise around digital transformation, operational efficiency, stability, value for money, providing a OPEX model where required, and ultimately aligning with that single government cloud strategy and working with Crown Hosting to deliver it. So in terms of how we like to see Trust Cloud bridging the gap to provide a hybrid multi-cloud platform environment that meets the secure government requirements, as well as ticking the sustainability boxes, which we'll go into later. Ultimately, we'll see how we can provide shared hybrid solutions. We can accelerate that transformation, whether it's from the proving ground of proof of concept through to an agile deployment into the cloud. That can be as simple as moving quickly to provide clients swing kit. We had one customer with a impending demolition of their current data center, who we provided some swing kit to get them into Trust Cloud within 3 months to actually transfer the whole environment and bring it up live in 4 months. So we've got plenty of examples to substantiate a lot of these components. Driving cost savings is another one that's key. So some of our part of our approach is to make sure that there's a business case to drive those cost savings. We work with a number of partners in order to provide that total cost of ownership, and we can go into quite a lot of detail on what that cost model looks like, and take into account all the costs for these operating environments to provide the viability of that commercially. Obviously, in terms of the billing, we mentioned it's a cloud model, so it's OPEX based. We can provide degree of constant billing on that, where clients need a bit more security around that, and perhaps the workloads aren't too bursty if it's a relatively steady state environment for a longer term. And as we'll come on to in a minute, the data sovereignty is preordained by virtue of using Crown Hosting data centers, which are a government initiative in their own right. So that's where Trust Cloud as an operating model and not a location fits in, and the stepping stones to it at a high level. Just to drill into that in a little bit more detail, we've got is our experience around providing network client server environments to commercial and public sector organisations. We do that across Europe as Trust Systems. We're an SME headquartered in Cirencester. That actually is one of the reasons that we will cover later, but that we were invited to work with Crown Hosting and the Crown Commercial service in order to provide a cloud solution. Ultimately, we're underpinned then by the technology solution that we work as a G-Cloud provider. The core hardware technology is predicated on Nutanix, but as with all these solutions, you need an ecosystem of security services, backup and hardware, underlying hardware providers like Lenovo and Supermicro to substantiate that. So the key element there in terms of where we sit is Crown Hosting, and that's a key element of why we're at the table for providing these services into healthcare and public sector, and segues nicely, hopefully, to Jamie giving an overview of where Crown Hosting fit with Trust Cloud.
Thank you, Chris. Yes, so I'm just going to give a really brief overview as to who Crown Hosting are, what we do, and why we're here today with the guys from Trust Systems. So as Chris said up front, my name is Jamie Whysall. I lead client engagement across all of our healthcare customers within Crown Hosting. Crown Hosting, if you're not familiar with it, is a dedicated public sector data center location or locations. We were formed back in 2015 following a ODU competition by the Cabinet Office and Government Digital Service at the time to create a single supplier of data centres for the public sector, recognising the direction of travel towards cloud hosting, and that data centres were going to become a diminishing part of the public sector estate over time, but that they were a really important part. And by aggregating those together in a single location, you gain the benefits of the security, the resilience, the sustainability of those services, as well as enabling public sector organisations to migrate to the cloud in an appropriate time frame to them, but ensuring that their existing hardware still have somewhere to live for as long as that should be required. As a result, we're a joint venture between the Cabinet Office and Arc Data Centres, which provides assurances to our customers around our ongoing service. And our dedicated framework, which is managed by Crown Commercial Service, provides an easy to access procurement mechanism for you as a direct public sector user. Now, over the last couple of years or so, we've recognised that actually the journey to the cloud isn't as simple as maybe first thought, and as the policy direction is moving more towards a hybrid scenario, and the requirements of the public sector to look at a managed services partner, to consume software as a service, to look at different cloud models, has prompted us to invest our time and efforts in developing a number of shared hybrid initiatives, of which Trust Cloud is one of these, where we allow private sector organisations to deliver or to host their own cloud or edge cloud solutions within our data centres, which allows them to live in close proximity to legacy hardware, but also to allow customers to then consume those cloud services from within a secure, safe, resilient and sustainable data centre that is located in the UK. We are helping our customers to save money. So a typical customer coming to Crown Hosting will save £3 for every £1 that they spend with us, and that's largely through the savings that they will enjoy on cost avoidance of electricity for cooling, but you get really flexible contract terms in terms of your ability to consume services from Crown Hosting and to leave, as well as the reduction in costs around procurement and the benchmarking that is undertaken on behalf of all Crown Hosting customers by Crown Commercial Service. And not only do we provide financial benefits, we also help our customers move towards net zero. We proudly say to our customers that they will reduce their cost of IT from a carbon perspective by 99.9% by moving to Crown Hosting, because of the renewable energy that we procure, because of the electricity avoidance, and the fact that our cooling system is effectively carbon neutral. There's lots more I can go on about Crown Hosting, but that's hopefully just a helpful introduction, and I will hand back to Chris to go into a bit more detail on Trust Cloud. Thank you, Chris.
That's great. Thanks for that, Jamie. I think that's a key tenet of the Trust Cloud proposition. So important to understand where you guys fit into our the partnership. So in terms of healthcare challenges, I think these are applicable to commercial sector and the broader public sector as well. And we see a lot of this from events that myself and Jamie have attended and other engagements with direct clients in terms of understanding where the move of legacy applications that aren't suitable for public cloud come from. So they might be around having close coupled subsystems that need to have low latency connectivity or are expensive to run in public cloud in terms of ingress and egress of data. It could be associated with just the software or the application architecture not running on those standard cloud platforms. With regards to controlling costs, we've got a spend to save model that we can substantiate with the requisite information, working with our clients, and hopefully from what Jamie's covered off there with regards to sustainability and the sovereign data center locations partner that's preordained by Crown Commercial Office, then we've got the location covered. We actually then double down on that, I guess, in terms of the sustainability of the architecture that we use in those locations, as well as using sustainable locations and the security that wraps around that, and the governance and the compliance that we meet for Trust Cloud in Crown Hosting ticks that security box. With regards to the skills gap, then we can augment that with the clients, or allow the clients to cross-train, or allow the client team to actually focus on the day job, which is providing their IT transformation to their line of business. And finally, in terms of picking up with hybrid and community cloud, we can provide a flexible, scaled approach to how we operate with each client's particular cloud journey, where they're trying to get to, or particularly where help them out in point areas where they're having a problem. So it's not one size fits all. So just to try and explain what are the stepping stones and what's hybrid multi-cloud, I've got a very basic graphic really that just goes through and explains how we take the three different environments on the left in terms of the start of a cloud journey for a lot of the clients that we're speaking to. So it might be their own site, their own data room or data center. They might be using existing hosting or a dedicated cloud with another provider, or they might have a legacy private environment. And what we're actually talking about is the purple box in the middle, which is a generic Crown hosting facility that contains Trust Cloud, and that allows us to work with clients to migrate those workloads into a private cloud model within Crown hosting. The key thing in that environment is that it actually is part of an ecosystem that Jamie alluded to, that Crown Hosting have developed. So it also includes some of the cloud hyperscalers in their own racks in the same physical locations, which means we're we're actually in close proximity to private cloud environments from the hyperscalers like AWS and Azure. You then got the public cloud at the top right, which allows for further transformation in that direction. But the stepping stone idea is that you can land the elements of your private environments into a private cloud environment, operate that on an OpEx model, and take that stepping stone to either work some of the workloads with the ecosystem partners directly through Crown Hosting, or provide a hybrid model into Trust Cloud. So just to try and bring that to life, we can actually see some of those workloads bouncing into the Trust Cloud purple racks on this this diagram, which is our sort of initial transformation process. But it also then allows some of the workloads to literally go down the hall and run on dedicated public cloud models. That then means there's a simple stepping stone then to run into the pure public cloud outside of Crown Hosting once that's approved and agreed from a security perspective. The final point that we do get involved with is that some clients actually are looking at the costs of storing those systems in the public cloud, and we're actually repatriating some of those where it's cheaper to do so back into the Crown Hosting environment or the Trust Cloud purple racks on this diagram. Okay, so this is a similar model of the story really, in terms of where our core services around IaaS, backup as a service, and DR as a service fit. We've got the legacy model on the left. We can offer on-prem remotely managed Trust Cloud services if that fits. The key area is off-prem in terms of the sovereign data center, which is the diagram that we've just walked through, and then we can provide other components of that, or a combination of all three of these pillars, with on-prem, off-prem, private cloud, and the hyperscaler cloud solutions to provide a hybrid cloud solution. So we've got each one of those facets. An example of that we've been working with recently from a healthcare perspective is a global electronic medical record solution provider, and we've actually helped them offload the IT provisioning to a client that's part of their software, to say, you know, you need to go and invest in all these systems as your own IT, Mr. Customer. We've worked with those the software vendor in this case to actually provide a Trust Cloud footprint, which is actually cost competitive to their current AWS architecture. So we're working with a number of their end users in the UK to provide their software platform within Trust Cloud. So in terms of the technology deliverables, so how we go about it and what it is, we've got an ecosystem that hopefully we've got a bit of context for there in terms of migrating and how we operate within Crown Hosting and the public cloud. The managing of those environments is where we really get assessment and planning across the data, the time to market, the workload, and whether there's any cloud native integration that needs to be done. The application mobility, whether that's from a client side perspective in their own locations, moving that into private cloud and then on into public, and also providing a single cloud platform. So we utilize the Nutanix hypervisor there, which can operate in any of those three environments, but is all managed and consistent through a single pane of glass in terms of management. The acceleration, transformation, and infrastructure updates is really a complementary part of our migration. I guess the sort of the next three in terms of migrating legacy infrastructure, building out that hyper-converged environment, and being able to cross-connect the connectivity is really our sort of part of our USP in that respect. So we were having a call with NHS Business Service Authority, and they asked us, a lot of these are common with the other hyperscalers or other players in this market, but what's the trust specialization? So it's really about how we can support some of the more legacy environments in the Crown hosting environment, and then how our combination of the Crown hosting plus the Nutanix hyperconverged platform and that single pane of glass across cloud locations allows us to take the client on that journey, and join all that together with our networking capabilities that we already provide to the likes of Arc data centers that house Crown hosting. So a little bit more on that on another slide in a second. And a key part of that is to be able to underpin the security services and compliance around any of those cloud components. A few more bullet points. I guess I'll summarize. So the first 5 or so on here are really about the trust technology and our methodology to support the solution. So we've got as I said at the introduction, an aligned model for meeting the various frameworks as standards. So it's sort of table stakes into any conversation with public sector or healthcare organisations, working with aligned with those requirements to meet the data centre footprint that Jamie's touched on, as well as the rack contents that go into that data center that we provide the managed service around. And then the items on the right there are really about providing efficiency and data and cost savings around that environment, whether it's the moving of services or getting a more reliable cost on power and the security of the location. So in terms of the journey to the cloud, we tend to operate on a life cycle approach. This can be iterative in terms of looking at various workloads as work packages, or we can look at a whole project requirement and how we go about that. So there's an assessment stage and services that we can go through. We can go through discovery if there's not a detailed outline of what needs to be migrated. And then typically that moves into from a planning stage into a proof of concept, which allows the client a confidence factor in Trust Cloud and how it operates. So we've got a 4-week model to do that. Work with customers to understand what that looks like if there's any uncertainty about operating workloads outside of the more traditional client side environments. And we provide that service free of charge in terms of giving that confidence factor. And typically in parallel with that, we then start having conversations about the true migration workloads that need to be moved into a hybrid cloud model, which ones are going to stay on site, where the dependencies are in terms of security, sign on, or indeed latency between the subsystems, and then move into the deployment to provide a managed service. So proof of concept into production stages, and then providing the managed service to the client. So just touching on, I guess a key point of reference as well as a key tenant to Trust Cloud is Arc data centers. So one of the reasons that we're at the table historically with the Crown hosting and Crown commercial is that we've looked after Arc data centers, BMS environments, and all the networking associated for that over a number of years now. We provided the architecture, the managed service, on-site resource, and ultimately the expertise and deployment services to Crown hosting. So as an organisation with a stake from the government in that, stands us in good stead to provide the solutions that I've just outlined, as well as some of the underlying understanding of the connectivity in those ARC data centers and the ecosystem environment to make sure we can join up all the components of a hybrid cloud. So I guess in summary, we've got without reading those out, we've got a hybrid model. We're on the right frameworks. We're just about to go live with a Nutanix memo of understanding for Crown Commercial Services to provide Trust Cloud as a managed service on Nutanix. We've got the OPEX model. We can be flexible on that commercial model in terms of providing monthly or quarterly, more kind of regular payments if the workload support it. An agile solution approach, the platform to run it on that meets the sustainability requirements, a proof of concept, stepping stone and confidence factor in terms of getting there, and a sprint approach to moving to cloud, the sustainable location, and some capability around not necessarily having a one size fits all, but we're quite happy to help out with the fitting into that ecosystem with either some legacy workloads or some of the specific microservices that we can provide to provide an open and hybrid cloud. So that's the cyclical summary of Trust Cloud for today. So that's all from the webinar. In terms of questions and answers, we're happy to pick those up or get involved in any follow-up as required.